I get letters from school teachers. One boy wrote an answer to the question, what was your favorite scene? He said, well, I like the scene where Bob Ewell spit in Atticus's face. Well, that got my attention, and I read on, and I realized that the boy really did get the point. Because Atticus had told his kids, look, I'm going to be doing something unpopular in this town. I'm defending a black man. He's innocent, but it's not going to be popular with a lot of people in this town. And you're going to be tormented in school. People are going to call you names, and maybe they'll start fights. But I don't want you to fight.
I don't care what the reasons are. I forbid you to fight.
This is something I have to do if I want to look myself in the face in the morning and when I shave. So the boy said, well, that's why. He said Atticus could have clobbered Bob Ewell if he wanted to, but he was setting a good example for his kids.
Real courage is being able to stand up in the face of the most horrendous adversity and still keep your dignity. I think that's what Jim learns. He learns courage, he learns dignity, and he learns the value of his family.
Only one cultural artifact superseded family and hospitality: the Southern cracker. Bob Ewell was the twisted, decayed remnant of these lively braggarts of Scotch-Irish descent, who never let business interfere with amusements, who believed there was luck in leisure, who despised machines and money and ambition, and who dueled at the hint of an insult, thereby encouraging courtesy and refinement. Personal injuries were always, without exception, settled privately. Atticus possessed all the graces of the Old South, but he replaced indolence and violence with education and law. Appropriately, the Harvest Festival brought out the goblins of the cracker's despair, perhaps as a final test for the faith of Atticus Finch.
Will you come on? Everybody's gone.
When they're walking along the road, it starts with the theme, and it gets scarier and scarier. This is no longer the mystery of Boo Radley, and it's very unlikely to be Boo Radley. It's not Gothic anymore. This is for real.
When he first attacks us and knocks her against the tree, then he and I grapple around for a few seconds, and then I run over and try to get her, and he grabs me by the hair and yanks me back out of the scene. That is not a fake. That's probably the reason why I've got this now. So he and I fought for 2 days. There was a lot more of the fight film than actually showed up in the movie.
Maybe he sensed, he knew something was up, so he's gonna protect those kids. He doesn't know what the repercussions might be. What does he care? It's instinct to save them.
Son Bowler was his name. And he and his mother would come out at night about 10 o'clock, 10:30, which was late then. There was one little street lamp out there. And they would work in the garden.
Judging from his tracks, he's about 6.5 feet tall. There's a long, jagged scar that runs all the way across his face.
But I did see him one time later on as I got older, probably the 11th grade. We sold the people a radio, and at that time you had to put an antenna out in the tree. And my dad was putting the radio over in the bedroom, and he says, now, son, you go through that door with the wire and hook it up on the tree. And Ms. Bowler said, let me open the door for you. When she opened the door, I ran right into Son, who's later called Bo. And it scared me to death. He was about 6 feet, I suppose. But he was white. I remember he was so white because he didn't go out in the daytime.
I'll never forget the day I saw Bob Duvall walk on the set in wardrobe, in full costume, with the ragged shirt and the baggy pants and the old worn work shoes. And he had dyed his hair white. And it just stunned me. He was very pale, there was no makeup, and there was Boo.
When that door goes back, there's a light thing. It's light. Hurts the guy's eyes a little bit. And then just from there, just examine the room from his hermetic position.
The fantasizing about Boo Radley, the whole concept of Boo Radley, the fears with which we titillate ourselves with boogeymen. ends with "Hey, Boo." And all the fears of this unknown character, going from that to this is the man who saves their lives.
Hey, Boo.
That's a lesson in screen acting, that he was able to convey so much in a glance of shyness, of awkwardness, of some kind of deep affection for the child, being exposed to other people, and he's a recluse. All those things he conveyed with the most subtle expression, and really it came from deep inside of Bob.
You can't push that stuff along. It's very delicate stuff. You gotta be very careful with it, especially with Horton. The material is very delicate, like sandpiper prints, you know.
You can pet him, Mr. Arthur. He's asleep. You couldn't if he was awake, though. He wouldn't let you.
As I touched that boy, I got goose pimples. And I knew I was on the right track. I could do nothing wrong at that point if I had that going on.
Thank you, Arthur.
As we talk about the prosecution of Boo Radley, Atticus's role changes from that of a defense lawyer.
Thank you for my children.
To the benign figure of the state, the legislator, the state official that decides when the power of the state ought to be used. And we as individuals have to make sure that we don't characterize those people in a pejorative way and say they're soft on crime.
It's one of his most unselfish and heroic acts, in that he gives up what means most to him for Boo. The novel is a love story, a love song. Harper Lee is able to speak not just for those people who are so silenced in this story, like Arthur Radley, but she's able to sing the song to and for Atticus, and to and for Jim, and for the other members of the community. The novel itself is the Mockingbird song. One really feels that at the end, as she's standing on the Radley front porch, looking at her world as Arthur Radley might have seen it.
There's a lot of hope in this whole story. Hope for a better future. An understanding that the children finally come to about the reality of the world and how they have to take what life gives them, somehow using these experiences to better not only their own lives, but the lives around them.
It is a childhood we all wanted to have and most of us didn't. We are rooted in a street where we know everybody. We feel free to live our own mystery world, know we're protected by this ideal father. And it's become as much a part of the American myth as Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. It's a triumph of Harper. And I think the triumph of the film is it did capture the soul of that book.
He would be in Jem's room all night. And he would be there when Jem waked up in the morning.
Is it a fantasy, a cloud full of truth and possibility? Or is it a dusty old hope chest, reeking of mildew and ancient love?
I've read a survey not long ago that said that next to the Bible, To Kill a Mockingbird is the most important book in people's lives.
The book is a story of a Southern childhood and a way of life, but perhaps we should take heart from the fact that that way of life itself was imperfect. And look what it produced. I mean, what should be heartening is a very imperfection of the times and the community out of which came this wonderful story and this wonderful book, which gives us hope to go on, not